Good afternoon, Crystal. How are you, ma'am?
I am good. And yourself?
I am good. I'm good. I
Awesome.
just realized that sometimes when I see people on the news or when I see people on a show or some type of talk show, at least when I did when I watched TV,
Hmm.
I would always wonder why is it that they're smiling all the time? And I think it's because they had that conversation like you and I just had before the show, and so somebody said something funny.
Well,
Anyhow, welcome, ma'am. I trust you had a beautiful weekend.
I did. I had graduations last week. I was in my garden yesterday, so that was wonderful. Saturday I was busy. So yeah, I was busy all last week. I was down in your neck of the woods three
Oh,
twice
really?
last week. Yeah, I was in
Really? And you didn't even
Irvine.
say hi?
I know. I was there for graduations
Cool.
and baby showers.
Oh, cool. They're still
Baby
doing
shower on Sunday and graduation on Thursday.
that.
I was there, and then I actually am coming back to Irvine for a meeting on Friday.
My
My
goodness.
friends are down there, and her family has come from Irvine. I mean, came from South Africa. So until they
Coming to
leave, I'll
visit.
probably be in and out.
Very cool. Very cool. Ask
Hmm.
them if they've heard of Pinotage.
Pinotage.
Yes,
Okay,
it's my
I will.
favorite wine from South Africa. It's a combination of Pinot Noir and Cinsault.
Oh, okay. All right. You probably have to text that to me. So I'll
I
have
will.
that and I will ask them. I know we had a lot of South African wine at the baby shower.
Oh,
Or at least,
really?
yeah, at least they
That's
did.
cool.
I was driving, so I didn't, but we had bottles and bottles. But her husband actually bought a winery when we were in South Africa last year.
Oh, wow.
So I don't and it was actually very good wine. So
Hmm.
we'll see what that looks like.
There you go. There you go.
Hmm.
So he's importing South African wine here to the U.S.?
Well, we don't know. He just bought the winery, and
Uh-huh.
so probably in the next couple of months, or for sure next year, we'll see where it's already an active wine. It's already actively producing wine and
Okay.
distributing it around the world. So I assume we're not going to change that dynamics.
Not too soon.
Not too soon, but I was there. Got beautiful grapes growing, and
Oh,
it's got a lot of acreage. And he's gonna add a hotel to the property, and he's going to add an amusement park.
that's amazing. I'm always, and I'm probably going to get cards and letters because this sounds more ignorant than it did when I was thinking about it. But I'm always wondering about going to Africa. And to be honest with you, I'm really kind of afraid because I'm thinking I'm going to get eaten by a lion or a zebra or something.
Well, they are actually on sanctuaries or conservatories, so they just not roaming the streets.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, nobody ever tells you that, right? So
But
I don't know.
not well. Some areas, if you're in the maybe in the Congo, that might be different because that's kind of in the interior, so you
Okay.
might have that case. But when I went to a safari, you actually had to drive onto the platform. They did have the lions. Um, you literally could see them. I mean, I saw the rhinos. We were on
Okay.
the bus. The
Yeah.
rhinos could actually come to you.
Yeah. I saw a show once. It was a cooking show, and this guy had to go and to Africa, and he had to cook this meal for the king,
Hmm.
and they had to go to where the rhinos were, and his guide said to him, "Now the rhinos do come, so watch out for them." And the guy was like, yeah, thanks. What do you do? First, a rhino, and then of course the rhino shows up, right? He says, "Now, if you just relax and be cool, the rhino will probably just go on by, unless it's looking for its mate." And then, of course, the mate shows up, and I think they were like looking for the. I mean, anyway, so this guy was like, just hands and feet away from rhinoceroses, and there was the water. I was like, that's a great time for me to be someplace else.
Yeah, so they're right there. We were on we were in the safari, and we were on the tram, the bus, the big thing, the
Uh-huh.
big truck.
Yeah.
And somebody's hat blew off, and he's like, "Oh well, bye hat." And somebody on the bus said, "Hey driver, can we go back and get the man's hat?" And the guy's like, "No, we don't need to go back and get." So the bus driver flipped around, went and got the hat, and here come the riot. He looked up and he saw him coming back, and then the guys and then the bus driver ran back on the bus. He's like, "Man, I didn't have to have a hat. That's good without the hat. I could buy another hat." So he said he was going to put it on eBay. The hat that almost got me
Yeah.
gored by a rhino.
Oh
But
my
the
God.
but the lions, when we were in there, they had just gotten these new lions. So they were well caged up because they had not become acclimated to their new environment.
I
And
see.
so with the roar of the truck engine, they didn't want them to start attacking the truck or the
Right.
tram. So they had to be well caged up. But it was like 5 of them. 4, no, it's 3 of them. They were pretty big. But
Mm.
the baboons, they run around. So it's kind of interesting, but that's just a small portion of Africa.
That's
The
true.
police
It is a
in
very
Cape Town
uh,
is actually beautiful, and I highly recommend that everyone take that journey.
yeah.
It's a beautiful country. I was in Egypt last year, going back to Egypt in August. Don't Probably won't get back to Africa this year, but next year on the calendar is Ghana.
Yeah. So are you
Yeah.
going to try to do the whole continent?
Eventually, yes. So it might be
Mm.
Ghana and a couple other spots next around the Ivory Coast there, and
Mhm.
then I'll go east to Kenya and Tanzania, and I'm
Good for
sure
you.
because my client we're going to be doing business in lots of business in Cape Town, so I'm sure I'll be back in South Africa
Yeah.
sooner than later.
That's cool. That's very cool. Good for you. Well, let's get
Mhm.
started on this little
Okay.
broadcast that we have going here. Um, we're going to talk about who's taking my money and
Mm.
the myths surrounding that. We're gonna do some myth debunking here.
Oh,
So,
like it.
is it the government taking my money? Is it the company taking my money? Is it my old spouse taking my money? Who's taking my money? So we're gonna talk about that. And first, may I read your bio, and then we can jump in.
You may, and at the end of the show, I have a interesting, "Don't be that guy." That's something that I read in regards to this person's retirement based upon some debt that he's acquired leading up to him having to, or may not, he may never get to retire, but we'll talk about it
Oh,
towards
so
the
leave
end.
some space for the "don't be that guy."
Right.
Okay. So, well, everyone, please welcome my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell. She is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's a co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, co-host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, that other online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hello, Crystal.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. I am excited about today's show. It's always good to debunk and demystify, which is pretty much why we started this, to debunk and demystify. So
Mhm.
um, let's uh, let's go ahead and start. So I know a lot of people. A lot of people. I don't know a lot of people. I know some people. I know a few. All right, I know one guy who said,
Okay, one guy.
I know one guy. So who said to me, uh, so and so company took his money. And I thought, I've been doing this a while. I don't think they take your money, but I do think it's a common concern for folks. Folks are thinking, how do I know it's going to be safe? How do I know the government's not going to get their greedy little paws on it? And there are lots of us that are afraid of the government doing things like that.
Mhm.
So let's take a look at it. All right.
Okay.
So the first one is the government. Is the government going to take your money? And the answer to that question is no, it's not, because all the money that you contribute to your retirement plan is yours. You can put it in and save, the rules that are with regard to plans, with regard to taking it out. The most common rule is age 59 and a half. You can take the money out at age 59 and a half. It is your money, right? And it cannot be taken away from you. It goes into the market. You're buying investments. Those things go up and down, but your money's not being taken away from you. But there are some rules that you have to follow. So in exchange for being able to have money come out of your paycheck and go into an investment in a pre-tax or after-tax way, and then following that have growth pre-tax or non-taxed. In exchange for that, the government gives us some rules so that people don't get willy-nilly and try to defraud the government. So the first rule is that when your money goes in, it can't be taken away from you. It's yours. It doesn't belong to the government. It's your money. The second rule is that there are rules to get it out. The first is most likely, like I said, age 59 and a half. And I say that because every now and then I get surprised by some of the rules that'll happen in a plan. I just ran across one where you had to be 65 before you could take the money out of the plan instead of 59 and a half. And I thought, that's different, right? And it was written there. So I think what a lot of folks don't realize is that a plan is just a document. It's an arrangement that your employer makes with the Department of Labor / the IRS and the federal government to say, hey, according to these rules, I'm going to take money out of people's paycheck and put it into the market. And so sometimes those rules can be a little different. But for the most part, the government's not going to get your money. They're not going to use it to do other things with it. They can't touch it. It's not theirs. It's yours. And you can have it usually once you're 59 and a half, or there are those withdrawals like hardship withdrawals, those kinds of things, or if you leave the company, then you can get your hands on that money. Here's the kicker, though. Here's the kicker. Any money you get your hands on, unless it's money inside the Roth account and you're above the age of 59 and a half, you're going to be taxed on.
Okay. Oh.
That's the deal.
Okay.
So you got to pay the taxes. But you can get at the money. I think, the cool thing is you haven't paid the taxes yet, on the growth, you haven't paid them. You didn't pay them when you put the money in. You don't pay them as they grow. You just pay them when you come out. So, and I know lots of CFPs who say to me that a 401k is not a good idea for so many people because you get taxed on the money. Right? So why, if you're either going to pay the tax now or you're going to pay the tax later, why even do that?
But they're going to have to do something of that nature at some point with whatever they do, right?
Exactly. You got to do something, right? That's the whole deal. And that's a huge argument. If you have the ability to throw $10,000, $15,000 into an account on a monthly basis, and you don't need to save money in your 401k, or if you have millions of dollars and you don't need to save for retirement, if that's the case, then you're in a really different situation, right? So, there are people out there that where a 401k just doesn't really make sense to them. There was a famous sports figure that had this, shall we say, ride along some Los Angeles freeway in a white car. I'm not going to mention, O.J. Simpson's initials. I'm not going to mention that. Okay. But large amount of the money that was not able to be touched in his in his trials and tribulations
Mm.
was pension money, i.e.,
Mm.
qualified money, i.e., 401k, profit sharing, that kind of money. Qualified, that is, it's qualified to be pre tax or grow tax deferred, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That wasn't touched. So he had money to live on
Live
because
on.
of that pension. And then, other things happened. So enough about that. So the deal is, if you're one of those people that thinks you might, be riding in a white Bronco one day, or if you're one of those people that
Find that your pension, your assets may be in jeopardy.
in jeopardy, yeah,
Mhm.
it's very, very difficult to pierce the veil of the 401k. That's
Okay. Well,
so,
well, then that right there is a very good reason,
yeah,
because you never know. I
you
mean,
never
things
know.
things happen in this world that we live in. This crazy world that we live in.
Crazy, crazy, indeed, indeed.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
there's
Well, that.
so the government's not trying to get your money. In fact, they'd like to get your money, but they can't get your money. It's your money. It can't be taken away from you.
Okay, okay, all right. Then that's a good reason. That's a good reason. And I think he may not be the only one. I think there's a couple other celebrity type of individuals that maybe not found themselves in that particular situation, but they found themselves in a situation where they were trying to be where they were being destroyed, so to speak, financially,
Mhm.
and they had those monies tucked away so that they
Yes,
could live. Yeah.
there are. We've I've definitely heard of those kinds of folks who have how can we say it? They have they didn't know that they were making contributions and that these were going to pay off in the way that they did, but
Mhm.
they got into a spot where they had some trouble, and they were able to hide that money away. Now,
Mhm.
let's say you're a business owner and you want to start yourself a company. Well, the government's not going to take your money, right? And so if you happen to retire, you can take those assets that are inside that qualified plan and you can roll them into an IRA or into another qualified plan. And let's say you roll them into another qualified plan of your own company,
Mhm.
right? So you take your assets, let's say you've got round numbers, $700,000 in your 401k, and
Mhm.
then you decide you need to start your own beekeeping firm over here,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
your beekeeping supplies are $250,000. So you take your $700,000, you roll it into a 401k in your own company, right? So now your company has a 401k. It can be a single 401k. The last time I did this, it was for a husband and wife team, but you can have a single 401k. Have the money in your single 401k, and now borrow the $250,000 from your 401k. How about
Mm.
that?
There you go. So self-fund yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then now you got to pay it back. You got to do it back, but you have to pay it back usually at a interest rate of prime plus 1 or 2%, and you get to determine that. And the money should come out of your paycheck on a regular basis if you set that up right. You pay yourself, and so you can
Mhm.
do that, pay the loan there, and
Mhm.
then you've got 5 years to pay it off. Not so bad.
And that's not so bad if if you're working, especially let's say if you were looking at your post retirement, and your second act is going to be a job. I mean, your own business,
Hmm.
and you needed to do some things. That might be a good way to do it while you're working, so that you could pay that back
Sure.
while you're working. But at the same time, most startup businesses are not eligible for loans when
Right.
they first start up. So here you're able to self fund your
Hmm.
own
There you
loan to start your
go.
business. So when you do retire, you then have a nice, stable, flat platform of capital for your business.
There you go.
And you've been paying it, and you were working, so you're not starting out. You still got debt, but you still had a job that you actually had resources in order to take care of that loan.
Exactly. The first time I did it for a gentleman that started a winery.
Mm.
He and his wife had already started the winery, and they had that 401k money over there, and they asked me if they could borrow from their 401k. And I said, no, you don't work for that company anymore. Why don't you just put in your own 401k? And he says, well, can I borrow from it then? I'm like, of course. There you go.
Oh, there you go. And see, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like I said, when you first start out a business, you're not normally eligible. I mean, there's some circumstances, but no, on a norm, they don't have startup funds for brand new businesses without traction.
There you go. There you go. Well said. Exactly that. That's what I was supposed to say, but I didn't have that vocabulary. You said that dramatically better than
Well, that's
I.
why I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh goodness. Yes. It is. Okay. So if you're starting your business, then the government can't take your money, and you might be able to use that 401k as a loan, which is pretty cool. Okay. Any questions? Whoa, I lost you again. Any questions
I'm
about
here.
about
But I could see why people would feel that the government was taking it, because we're listening to political mumble jumble right now, and there's always back to regulating pensions and retirement and Social Security and Medicare, and not and we all know that those are monies that have been taken out of our paycheck. We work for those monies, but if you didn't understand what was happening, you think, wait a minute, are you going to take my money? I put that money in there, right? I it came out of my paycheck.
there you go.
You didn't give me that money.
Exactly. Which is a
So,
very good point. It's a
right?
very, very good point. The government didn't give you that money. There's no reason why they can take it from you.
Right,
So
exactly.
there you go.
But it
There,
sounds like that when you
yes.
hear the little
Now,
sound bites, it
yeah,
sounds like that.
it sounds like that. And I'll tell you this, to your point, there are penalties if you go against the rules.
Hmm.
Right? Because the money is for retirement. And I think as a business person, sometimes, I'm not going to say always, but sometimes we try to find the way things work to our best advantage, which isn't always appropriate. So
Right.
there are rules in the system, right? And so there is a penalty if you take the money out before 59 and a half in
Okay.
general. Yeah, in general. But it's a 10% penalty. So, you just deal with that and keep going. So there
Okay.
you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well then. All right. So now
It's,
who
it's
else
your
might
call.
be taking my money if it's not
Yeah.
the government?
It could be, some folks might think, that it's um, your spouse.
Mm.
Can my spouse take the money?
Mm.
Yeah.
Can they?
Yeah. No, they cannot. Not until you die. They cannot get at your money until you die.
Okay.
And only if they're the beneficiary. Now, here's the bugaboo. You get to name your beneficiary, and I've told many of folks that I'm happy, happy, happy to be a beneficiary for them. But you get to
Ah.
name the beneficiary. However, however, in all the states of the union that I've seen, your spouse is your primary beneficiary unless that person agrees and signs off. So we
Okay.
have lots of people who name their children from their first marriage as their beneficiaries, or they name their trust because their children a trust because their children are young and they won't be able to sign for the documentation. You have to be the age of majority to sign. And so if you're a kid that's like 12 and your parents pass away, first of all, God bless you. But second of all, how do you get the money? Now you've
Mm.
got to go through some horrible rigmaroles to get the money. um, for it to take care of you. So lots of folks will either have a godparent sign as the beneficiary, or they will have another adult that's going to be a caretaker for the kids, or they'll put the monies into a trust. And every place that you go that offers 401ks can help you do all of that. They've already got the language established. But, and here's the kicker, you got to get that spouse to sign off first. The spouse has to sign off first because they don't want a situation where this spouse gets the money, but this spouse, they don't want that fight over who's supposed to have the money.
Ooh.
Yeah. As you can think about it this way, most people have their retirement plans at a record keeper that's an investment house.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing that investment house wants to do is try and figure out who's the rightful owner of the money. They'll essentially connect with the HR person and say, where's the money go? And that person will tell them and they will send it. So it's really, 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 really a good idea to have that beneficiary info up to date.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Very good idea.
Okay. The
Okay.
last one I was going to talk about is your company. I mean, usually the 401k is called XYZ Company 401k plan or XYZ 403b plan. Can they take your money? Right? I mean, it's Bill's company. Can Bill take your 401k money? The answer is
Okay.
no. No, he
No.
can't.
No, he
He
cannot.
cannot. He cannot take
Okay.
your money. So if you are Bill, no, you cannot take that money.
And I assume that means there are governmental regulations or things that have prevented that from ever happening, or the reason why that cannot happen is
There are.
okay.
Now, truth be known, I will tell you that I do have some attorney friends or acquaintances who have found ways to collateralize that money. But I've never seen anyone actually be able to take the money, and I don't think they can collateralize all of the money in that 401k. The 401k is in a trust specifically so that people can't run off with it. And then all 401ks have insurance. So just in case the owner does run off with the money, if they can find a way to get their hands on it, that money is insured. So
Okay.
that it's actually what do you call it? Bonded. The money is under a bond. So
Okay.
you cannot. It's very, very difficult to go someplace and have the participants hurt because the money suddenly ended up in Hawaii or wherever.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay. So like like the FDIC, but
it's bonded. Yes. It's not
up
like
to a certain amount or total?
total, as far as I
Okay.
can tell. There are, levels of insurance, right? So, usually we call it a fidelity bond. Usually that's at a particular level. So you have to pay X to have that insured. And that's one of the things we look at when we look at taking over a plan. Is the fidelity bond up to date? Do you have $2 million in your 401k plan, but only coverage for 100,000? That's a
Mm.
problem, right? So let's get that taken care of.
So that's
So
part of that review that they do with you to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be.
yes,
Periodically that they do that
yeah,
questionnaire.
yeah, we do because we call it benchmarking.
Okay.
Where we actually take your plan. I actually, as an advisor, take your plan out to bid. I'm working on one right now. So we ask several companies how much they charge, and we run them through an analysis, and we come up with this is what your plan is worth on the market. This is how much you're paying. Is there a difference there? Now, one of the things I might throw in here, since we're kind of talking about should your company take your money, but just as an aside, um, when we do a benchmark,
Mm-hmm.
not that I'm advertising, so I guess I am. I guess I am advertising. But when we do a benchmark, we take that plan out to bid. It doesn't mean that you have to have the cheapest price, right?
Okay.
So the Department of Labor understands that there are all kinds of cars on the road, and some of them provide more comfort and more function than some of the other cars do, and some of
Mhm.
them look different, right? I happen to have a car that I like, but I have some friends of mine who have cars that I will only get in if they are in that car with me. I mean, I'm just not getting in that car, right? So there are there are some there are fast cars and there are slower cars, there are family cars, there's pickups, but they all go on the road and they all get you from point A to point B, and that's a very good thing. And so the one that is right for you is the one that's right for you. So just because company A has a 401k plan that looks like this, that doesn't mean that company B's 401k plan looks the same. It can be
Okay.
different. It can cost more, it can have different investments, it can cost less, it can provide different services. So
Mhm.
they're not always the same.
Okay.
And cheapest is not always best.
Mm.
No, everybody understands cheap is not always best. So um, if I'm if I'm looking at a plan, I don't always want to choose the cheaper one.
Okay.
Cheap is not always good. Choose the one that's appropriate because of the services you get. That's
Right.
that's that's the one.
And that's going to meet your needs.
Meet your needs exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Mhm. A lot of sense.
Yeah. So, just as a recap, the government can't take your money. The company can't take your money. The spouse can't take your money unless you name that spouse a beneficiary. So we can go back to that. If you name your spouse a beneficiary and the other spouse shows up and they're not a beneficiary, tough tacos to that Johnny come lately spouse, right? So the spouse that's whose name is on the form, that's the one who's going to get the money.
Mm.
Now there might be a squabble that you have to go in front of the judge to figure out or do some mediation. I don't know about that. All I know about is the money goes to where the beneficiary is, or the agency wants to send the money to the beneficiary, wherever that person is, and be done with it. So it's a good idea to keep that up to date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Sounds good to me. Well, awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
All right. So no one can really take your money.
No one can take your money. No one's taking it.
Overall, no one.
Yeah, and I'll tell you where this comes up. Typically, someone will say, "All right, we're going to get your money from here, and we're going to put it in here, and then we are going to manage it for you." Okay, and uh, the way the story came to me was, Company A had the money, Company B was trying to get the money, and
Mm.
so Company B went to Company A, got the money, and Company B told my friend, "Oh, Company A actually took your money and hung on to it, and that's why you didn't get it." So that's why, when it went to Company C, that's why you lost all the money, because Company A hung on to that money,
Oh,
which
wow.
is which is not true. And in this
Mm.
person's case, what actually happened was Company A had the money, and my client um, wanted to roll assets out of Company A into Company B, which is fine. They did that.
Mhm.
When Company B got the money, they decided to give that money to the participant, put it in his hot little hand.
Mhm.
So the participant at this time, of course, was not 59 and a half. Right? So when Company
Mm.
B gave the money to the participant, he automatically had a 10% penalty. Most companies, when they do that type of transaction, going from the company to the participant with the withdrawal, right? This is what this was a withdrawal. They
Mhm.
charge a 20% in taxes, and they take that 20% and they send that to the federal government because most people forget when they're doing their taxes that they actually did make a distribution.
Mm.
So they send that money to the government as a down payment on the distribution you made. Now, I'm using my words carefully. I'm using the word withdrawal and
Mhm.
distribution. I'm not using the word rollover.
Okay.
I'm not using that word.
Because
So a
that means
rollover,
something entirely different.
a rollover would be like you move from company A to company Q, and you take your monies and you roll them over from company A to company Q. They don't touch your hand. And I mean, we can get into the weeds and talk about that a little bit later. But they essentially go from one company to the next company that you work at, one employer to the next employer.
Mm.
In that situation, you haven't taken possession of the money. You don't have to pay taxes, and there's no money. There's no charge for that transfer. So we call that a
Mhm.
rollover, right?
Okay.
When the same thing happens into your own IRA, you take the money out of you work for company A, you put it into an IRA over here at yada yada bank or
Mhm.
financial house. That money doesn't come to you. It goes directly to that house. No tax on that transaction. And we call that an asset transfer. So a
Okay.
rollover, company to company, asset transfer, company to IRA. So rollover is employer to employer. Asset transfer is distribution from company A to an IRA.
Okay.
No taxes there. Now, here's the problem. You make a distribution and the money comes to yourself, and then you take that money and you put it into an investment home with an IRA.
Mm.
This is where things get dicey. If you do
Ah.
that, yeah, this is my, I don't have a whole lot going on in my life. So this is exciting for me. This part is exciting for me. So when you when you get the money from your house, from your old job, when you get the money, you got 60 days from when that money hits your mailbox to put it into an institution that has an IRA and put it into that IRA. If you fail to do that, now you have to pay taxes on that money. And this is where people get caught because back in the day, folks would take all their money out of their 401k. They
Mhm.
would put it into a bank account, checking account, savings account, and they would call their financial advisor and they would say, okay, how do I manage my future? And the financial advisor say, well, how much you got there? And he'd say, well, I had $800,000, but now I only have 560,000 because the government took it all.
Mm.
Well, that's not exactly how it works. The way it works is since you took that money from the 401k and you put it into your bank account, you took possession of the money. So, what's going to happen is that at the end of the year, when you file for your taxes, theoretically, the end of the year, when you file for
Mhm.
your taxes, you've got to count all of that money that you took and put into your bank account. You have to count that as income. And it's for this reason,
Ah.
And so now you've just raised your income by $800,000.
Woo!
Ouch, right?
Ouch!
And it's for this reason that there are lots of learned folks who think that a 401k is not a good idea because now the government's going to take a bunch of your money. For some people, that's 40, 50% of your 401k plan
Okay.
gone in taxes, right? Because you had a really good year. You made $800,000 plus what you normally make. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, not good. Here's
No.
the issue though. If you roll that money directly into an IRA and you only take out what you need, let's say $2,000 a month, if that's what you take out, that's what you're going to be taxed on.
Okay.
right? So you take out your $2,000 a month. Let's say that's $24,000, and you're on Social Security, which is paying you, just to make my math easy, $1,000 a month. So you're going to be taxed on $36,000 a month. $3,600 a month. I'm sorry, or right,
Mhm.
24 and one, right?
Mhm.
$3,600 a month. That's what you're going to be taxed on. Not that whole amount of money that's in the account, only the little bit that you pull out,
Oh, okay. Okay.
plus your income.
Okay.
So
Wow. So you definitely need to have you should have somebody like yourself to advise you to make sure that you don't let you forget
yeah, yes,
to keep you accountable. Yes,
yes.
you don't forget.
Yeah, don't forget. And I love talking to people about this stuff. I don't know an advisor that doesn't. We all have this. Those rules are the same everywhere you go. So um, I can't imagine how anyone can rip you off. So if you are going to make that move, then you definitely want to ask your financial advisor. Okay, how do I make sure this happens? Okay, and while your money, and lots of people forget this, but while your money is at the employer where your
Mhm.
401k is,
Mhm.
you're paying that advisor to help you. So don't feel bad about calling her up and saying, "Hey, I need to roll these assets out. How do I do that?" If they're just going to go to a well, if they're going to go to you, that's not so
Mhm.
good. If they're going to go to another institution, that advisor will probably say to you, well, I can give you some basic rules, but you'd probably be better off connecting with the financial advisor at that institution for that direction. And that person
Mm.
will walk you through how to get the money out of point A, company A, how to get it into company B, how to make that IRA work, how to make all that happen. And they will
Mhm.
be happy, happy to do that. So
Okay.
there's always help. Hope that makes
Awesome.
sense.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome.
Oh,
Awesome.
we need to save some time for the don't be that guy. So what's the don't be that guy?
Okay, so I was reading an article the other day. It popped up in my feed that this man, he's 52,
Hmm.
has 5 kids,
Yep.
all college age,
Okay.
and uh, had always had plans for his children to go to college. Him and his wife, that was their
Mhm.
plan, right?
Yep.
Well, he and the wife divorced.
Ooh.
And so the plan for the kids to go to school is still a plan. So the father alone took out loans for all 5 of his kids to go to school.
Took out loans.
School loans.
So he went to a bank or some lending
He went
institution.
through a program, it was called Parent Plus,
Ah.
and he is currently in debt for $550,000.
Mm.
And so of course he's in and is he says that um he is paying well, he's looking at paying $3,000 a month. He's very concerned about retirement because how he can't leave a job.
Yeah. 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 And if you do leave, I mean, even if you're at the job, that's a serious chunk of change.
That's a serious. And so he would be contributing to his pension, his 401k, but that's not
Mhm.
leaving a whole lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's very concerned about his retirement at this point because he doesn't know what that looks like. But he
Well, has
wanted to
he
make sure his children
went to?
went
So
to
they've
college.
already gone. He's already.
They're already, yeah, and they didn't go to they didn't go to expensive colleges. They went to 3 went to local colleges. I think he's in the state of Philadelphia, and then others went out of state, but smaller colleges.
Wow. I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday. This whole idea of helping your kids go to college is it's really tough on people. I mean, it really, really is tough. Um, and my
Actually,
feeling,
he's 57. So he's closer to retirement than not to retirement.
Oh boy. So the question is, or was there a
So
question?
I just yeah, what if you find, I mean, if you had a client that came to you at this stage of the game, what would one's advice be for someone in that position? I mean, obviously he from previous employment, he would have money invested, I would hope, in a 401k that would carry over if
Yeah.
he had, but it's not going to be probably enough to help him through this crisis, huh?
Well, it depends, how much it is, and what he does, and I don't know his income.
Yeah.
So he may have the income to where he can pay that $3,000 note and, be able to eat and save for retirement. That would be great.
Mhm.
A lot of discipline for most of us to be able to do that. I'd have to see his whole situation, so I'm hesitant to say what to do, but
Right.
I can tell you this. If he doesn't, the very fact that you have children doesn't mean that you don't have to save for retirement. There's no, you don't get a plus, right, for taking care of your kids. I would say the time to come and talk to someone like me is before you make the decision to borrow that money. And
Ah.
now, of course, yeah. Now, of course, if I'd gotten to him beforehand, then I could say to him, you can take out monies out of your 401k plan to pay for tuition. You can do that. And so maybe that's something you might want to consider instead of footing that whole bill. Let's start off with just 1 year and
Mhm.
maybe we can edge our way into that. If I'd
Mm.
gotten to him 18 years ago, I'd have said, you want your kids to go to college? Start saving now, right?
Mm.
Even a little bit,
Mhm.
put in a
Mhm.
little bit away. And there's several mechanisms for that. Some people can say the Roth IRA, some people say a 529 plan, and some people say an education IRA. Um, so there are options for that, whatever makes sense for you.
Mm.
Now, though, if I'm just based on what you told me, I would say that poor man needs to get himself another job. And if he does get another job and he is working, and because he's got a huge bill that he's going to have to pay eventually. So,
Mhm.
job two, he can still participate in their 401k plan. Here's the kicker, though: he cannot put in more than that regular amount, that $26,000 or whatever it is for folks, right?
Mm.
However, since he is above the age of 50, he can do what we call a catch-up contribution. So he could put in the 26,000 from the one job, right, and then
Mhm.
go to another job and put it and fulfill that other 6 grand there. He could put in 6 grand. I don't see how he's going to do that without getting another job. I just,
Mm.
I just don't. I just
Mm.
really just don't.
Wow. And I would imagine speaking to a retirement advisor probably was the last thing on his mind at that time, which
Right? Yeah.
yeah, but like we've said before, your team is there for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because those
Yeah.
are some major decisions
Yeah.
that you're having that will affect the whole entire rest of your life.
Yeah. And not having college debt is a good thing. A good thing. So if you
Yeah.
can keep your kids away from that, good. So for people that are new parents now, I say start saving now. Start. And if you think you're going to have kids and you don't have them, you and your spouse are thinking about having children, start saving now. I mean, start saving as soon as you can. Even if you're putting the quarters in the jar,
Yeah.
if you're starting the savings account and you can transfer that money over when little Miss Muffin comes to visit you, fine, fine, fine. I mean, I've never met anybody in retirement Never met anybody in retirement or on vacation that just felt they had too much money. I've
Yeah.
never met anyone like that. So
And people laugh when people say, "Oh, I've started my child's, you know, education fund," and they're like 2 months old.
yeah,
But that's, in this day and age when it costs so much money to go to school. And the sad thing about it is, um, a lot of times by the time you finish paying on the education, the degree may not even be relevant. I
maybe.
mean,
Yeah,
friends of mine that got their degrees, back in the 70s, you know, life has changed a great deal since the 70s and the
life has
80s.
definitely changed since
Right.
the
And
70s and
so,
80s.
and then also, I was just talking on one of my other shows, people that got literary arts degrees and sociology degrees. What the heck? I mean, today, what do you do with those degrees? Maybe even an English degree might be a bit passe today. I mean, you got a degree, you got your PA behind your name. Um, okay, but
I,
now if
you
you
know,
went on,
I actually disagree. I think
okay,
uh, I think when I worked on the phone at some of these financial institutions, I remember saying to folks, I can teach you about stocks and bonds, but I can't teach you how to be nice to people and how to be empathetic. And for those types of situations, I think folks who have a degree in one of the humanities, sometimes they're just
ah,
easier to talk to, right?
okay, that may
Um,
be true. Okay, I agree with you on that one. That's true.
yeah. But to your point, um, if you do get a degree in which you need to get a master's degree in order to hang out your shingle, or you need to get further training in order for you to make some money off of that degree, do that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, don't, I don't, I'm not going to suggest somebody go and just get a degree, because they're just not making candles makers the way that they used to. That's a tough business to get in.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
But we do need people that can talk to folks. We do need people in the line at social services where we need those folks. We need folks with English degrees, and we need all of that stuff. You really do need to look at what kind of paycheck you're going to get, though.
Yeah, you gotta in this day and age, the cost of living is great.
And you're spot on. This is not the 80s or the 90s. And back in, I mean, now we just had a pandemic where more people started their own business than you shake a stick at. And
Mhm.
I think that really does add to those unemployment numbers that we're talking about, because unemployment that we know of only measures people that are out looking for a job. So if you take a large group of people that out of the records, right? They're
Right.
not working. They're not working at a job. They're
No.
not looking at a
Nope.
job. They've owned
Mm-mm.
their own company. All right, so
Mhm.
that leaves space for a bunch of other people to come in, and those people want more money. So, we really have a perfect storm here with things coming into our system when we look at the old numbers, the old way that we used to look at them, without leaving room, if that's the good word, to,
Yeah.
to judge them appropriately, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, and I think parents have to. I know we always want, like with my nephew. I think you have to really start. Or one of my nephews started his college search very, very early on, because he knew he wanted to go to college when he was in middle school. The other one, I am very proud of him. He does have school loans, but he was very he did his junior college, he did community college first, and then he got all of his undergrad, his requirement studies out the way at a much cheaper cost. then going to a 4 year to pay absorbent amount of money to take English and math and science, right? Right.
Mhm.
So do
Yep.
that at a community college where you live as a resident,
Yeah.
and and then he did a lot of online classes. So when he actually got um, his to the school to get his degree,
Mhm.
he's there 2 years. He graduates in November of this year, and it everything has been focused on the craft and the job, the career that he wants to go into.
And let's say he stays in that career for at least a year,
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Yeah.
not. I mean, most of us have changed, not just jobs but careers 6 or
Yeah.
7 times, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
think about where some of us start out. You start off being you graduate from college and you become a field engineer, and then you become a teacher, and then you become a priest, a minister, and then you become a financial advisor, and then you go back to being a college professor now. And
Right.
that's 5 conceivable job trains. Or if you go to school to be an auto mechanic, and then you become a business owner, and then you become a landlord, and then you
Mm-hmm.
become a, I don't know what landlords do, but I couldn't do it. So
Mm-hmm.
I would have to become something else.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, he wants to be a film director. That's what he's in school for. Film directing, producing, and directing. He actually has a film that he directed recently. It's going to be entered into the Black Film Fest next year. So we're
Cool.
very excited for
Good
him.
for him. Good for him.
Um, the other one's in education and business and athletic sports administration. So he's operating and functioning in the space that he wanted to be in.
Good. That's cool. It's great
Hmm.
to see young people get those dreams, especially anybody get their dreams, like,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really sad when those, maybe your parents wanted you to be a doctor, your mother, your grandmother, whatever, or this is the school that they always went to, and then they want you to be that, and that is not your dream whatsoever. And then you get there and you go like, I hate being an attorney. I hate medicine. So I got to get out of this. After you didn't spend all those years in it, and you realize that, and you didn't you didn't incur $250,000 in debt. That's scary.
yeah,
It's
that,
scary.
that is scary.
But I just thought, that part, don't be that guy. Talk to the people that are helping you manage your money, so that there always some other option out there for you.
Yeah, I think borrowing money, is the least the worst thing you can do um, when you have a bill, right? So
Yeah.
find some other option that you can do. Keeping your kids at home for 2 years through junior college while you're paying that thing off and you're figuring out what you need to do, or you know, I gotta say, most of the people I know, their kids work. They work in high school and they work at school. They work. So unfortunately, I just don't know very many wealthy people. But yeah, their kids earn money.
I worked through college. In fact, I this weekend I had an opportunity to speak at the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the AKAs, and I was thinking back to why didn't during that time when I was in school didn't I pledge? And I'm thinking I had no time for that.
Mm.
I had to work. I didn't
No,
have I didn't
yeah,
have the time for those extracurriculars,
yeah,
because right at the time I was going to college, my parents separated, and so the whole game plan changed
sure,
in my
sure.
junior year. So whatever college looked like in ninth and 10th grade was not the case in 11th grade. So
Mm,
we weren't even on the same side of the country. So everything changed. So
yeah.
all of that went out the window. So I didn't have that luxury to, you know,
I remember I worked and borrowed money.
okay.
Yeah,
Well, Okay.
Worked,
Yeah.
yeah, worked through school in the summer and borrowed money.
And school wasn't as expensive as
It
then
wasn't
as it
even that
is now.
expensive then. No, it wasn't. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
got out cheap, compared to what a lot of kids need to do today.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
so
righty.
we've come to the end of our show. We should do that. May I read your bio again?
You may.
Okay, here we go. Everyone, please help me say goodbye to Crystal for a week.
Oh.
With the reading of her bio. So, Crystal, before you leave us, just wanted to remind you that you are a business coach and consultant, the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. You're the
Mhm.
co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, a co-host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online radio show, an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. It has been an honor and a pleasure, ma'am. Do you want to
Same here.
take the last word? And
Last word is, as we always say, make sure you guys are gathering all the information, contacting all the people that can help you make better decisions and save yourself some money in your way. Definitely save yourself some money before you make those final decisions, because there are people, experts that are out there. So your retirement plan advisors, your CPAs, your lawyers, your business coaches, at least give them a try to see if they don't have nothing. Then you can at least say, okay, I've exhausted all of those folks and I'm still back at this decision. Then you know it's the right decision. But
there you go.
make sure you utilize your team, guys. Utilize your team.
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next week on Conversations on the Patio.
All righty.